Lately, I've been sharing a lot of stories about mistakes that I've made in the past, from becoming a bully in high school and bullying the white kid that had interest in Asian culture, to writing a blog post calling every single girl at my school ugly, thinking that it was simply harmless humor that could generate likes and make me popular. And it seems like these stories resonate with a lot of you. And this week, I got this comment asking what I think I'd do if I was in high school during the pandemic, and if I'd feel like I was missing out on anything. I just felt like that was a really poignant question, because honestly, that's something that I've struggled with my whole life. Always thinking and worrying about whether or not I'm missing out on something. And above everything, there was nothing else that I worried about missing out on more than dating. Even pretty early on, I keenly remember inviting the girl that I liked to my birthday party when I was turning 8. Even back then, I remember it was such a big deal to me to extend that invitation and then have her say yes. And when that day came, I made sure to dress to impress. I wore my favorite yellow dress shirt with multiple pockets on the front, and during the games, I made sure to be extra aggressive to impress her with my athleticism. But all throughout elementary school, that's kind of just how it was. I distinctly remember 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, there were these 3 girls that would routinely cycle having a crush on. I would write these letters telling them that I liked them, with checkboxes with a yes or no response if they liked me in return. And I was heartbroken when it didn't work out with one, and then a few months later I would have cycled on to the next one. Come to realize now, thinking back, that it was just really whoever the teacher assigned to sit next to me for that period of time. But back then, it was actually really tough. They had no idea that I was their biggest fan, and how much it hurt to experience that unrequited love time and time again. To read those letters with the checkboxes always marked no, and to be repeatedly told that I was funny and cute, but that they didn't like me in that way. To be honest, it really was damaging, especially to my self-esteem and my self-confidence. And like I shared in my I Just Wanted Girls to Like Me video, just feeling unattractive and just unaccepted. And so like I shared, it was in junior high that I really tried to reinvent my look. I changed my hair and I changed my clothes, because it was right around then that a lot of my peers began dating. But despite my best efforts, it didn't really seem to make a difference. I even thought that maybe being chivalrous would make a difference and help me get a girlfriend. And so one time, I remember my friends and I were all standing around in the quad, and I noticed this girl about to lose her balance. And I reactively reached out to try to catch her and prevent her from falling. But instead of it being a romantic slow motion movie scene where I caught her and stared into her eyes, the girl and my friends, they all just laughed at me in my lame attempt to try to save her. And so it's safe to say that I was just absolutely crushed and completely and totally convinced that I was just ugly and would never find love. And so imagine my surprise when finally in high school, I found out that a girl that I liked actually liked me back. It was just mind-blowing to me. Up until then, I was completely convinced that I was ugly and that I'd never be able to find a relationship. And then here all of a sudden, I meet somebody who was reciprocating those feelings back to me. That relationship with my first girlfriend was truly life-changing. For the first time ever, I really felt comfortable in my own skin and started coming out of that shell, being able to accept myself for who I was. And so along with that, it seemed like a lot of things began to change for me at that exact same time. It was sophomore year when we had gotten together, and it was right around the time when the school was casting votes for homecoming court. A bunch of people thought that we were really cute together, and especially since we were both each other's first relationships. And so we both ended up being nominated potential candidates for homecoming sophomore prince and princess. The night that they announced the winners of the homecoming court, we were at a home football game during halftime. I was super nervous because 1, it was the very first time that our parents would meet each other, and 2, I kept thinking that if we had to win, then we had to win together. Well, to make a long story short, I ended up winning, and she didn't. Not to be melodramatic, but I remember it feeling like my worst nightmare. Just thinking how this fairy tale dream of us winning it together was just absolutely dashed. It was just inconceivable to me to accept this honor without her. In fact, I mulled over it for days and was actually distraught leading up to the homecoming dance. You see, the girl that ended up winning instead, Kristen, she was super popular, super nice, and well liked by everybody. But me being head over heels infatuated with my first girlfriend just saw one giant problem. You see, as I came to find out, One of the traditions of the homecoming court is at the homecoming dance, you would go off to have a homecoming court only slow dance. And I remember when I found out about that, I was just so distraught at the thought of having to leave my girlfriend mid-dance to go dance with somebody else. In fact, it bothered me so much that I actually prepared myself to apologize to Kristen and excuse myself from that portion of the dance. And so it wasn't until my girlfriend, her friends, and my friends as well reassured me that it'd be okay that I went ahead and performed my duties and danced with Kristen, still feeling wrong about it for the whole 30 seconds or so that it lasted. And so I just remember being so emotional leading up to it. And so after that, after returning to my girlfriend, during the last slow dance of the night, we shared our first kiss, the first for both of us. It just felt like a culmination of so many things all at once. Me getting the girlfriend of my dreams, my first girlfriend, and breaking out of that shell that I thought I was trapped in, feeling ugly and unaccepted. And so it was later that night after the dance that I made her a promise. I promised her that our senior year, that I would be the one to take her to the senior prom. It was a noble promise to make that kind of commitment. But now looking back, what did I even know as a 15-year-old about relationships? And so to make a long story short, we ended up breaking up before our senior year. I ended up getting into another relationship with the freshman younger sister of one of our mutual friends, alienating our whole friend group in the process and burning friendships along the way. And I'll save that story for a future video. But when it came time for our senior prom, because of all the drama and especially because of the promise that I had made my ex-girlfriend 2 years before, I made the tough decision to skip senior prom and not go. And so I remember that night when all my friends were at prom and I was just at home by myself, just feeling so much regret for my decisions and actions leading up to that point. It was just hard to feel like I was missing out. And although it's not quite the same as missing out because of a pandemic, that feeling is nonetheless all too familiar. And that regret, just wishing things weren't that way, although in my case it was largely self-inflicted, it's just all too real. And for the longest time, it just continued to eat away at me, just thinking about all the things that I missed. These days, I try to not live with regret, and I try not to spend too much time focusing on things that could have been. Especially as I take care of Mom and spend these last moments of her life with her. It's difficult, but I try avoiding wishing things were different, but instead focusing on the opportunity that I have to be here and care for her as best as I can. And it just reminds me of this question that I got some time ago. Whether or not I feel like Mom's dementia is holding me back, and if caring for her prevents me from living my life and being happy and achieving my goals and dreams. To be honest, it's definitely tough. We've had to miss out on opportunities and experiences like living together after recently getting married, searching for and buying a new home together. Just so many missed opportunities and missed experiences because we have to be here to take care of Mom. But as I've been learning more and more lately, when a door closes to something, an opportunity to something else opens. And in this case, I'm so thankful and grateful for this opportunity to be with Mom to the end. And so I encourage all of us to reframe our perspectives and focus on the things that we do have. And it's seeing those moments and seizing those opportunities and making the most of them that can prevent ever having to look back with regret.